Hello, YouTube. We're going to pick back up with the Harmonics of Creation, A Course in Manifestation, with um, Chapter 3, The Forbidden Apple of Knowledge. I'm going to skim this one because there's some more important things down lower that this that are more better information than what this is. So anyway, here goes. The essence of the inner world of energies is that energies always flow. That is why I call the world of energies the flow world. In order to understand the flow world, we need to know the characteristics of the flow. The Bible's book of Genesis refers to the hidden nature of energetic flow as the forbidden apple of knowledge. The figure to the right shows this apple, which has been kept secret since the beginning. In the inner part of the apple-shaped movement, the energy spirals downwards. In the apple's outer part, the energy spirals upwards. This is an infinite flow of continuously spiraling energy. All energy spirals up and down along this apple shape. A lot of people call it the toroidal flow or shape. Exactly in the middle of the apple, the inward spiraling motion changes into spiraling outwards. This very center of the energetic apple is the null point or 0 point. When we assume the perspective of this null point, we perceive the incoming spiral as counterclockwise and the outgoing as clockwise. To distinguish between inwards and outward spiraling energy, ancient science uses the concepts of yin and yang. The inward spiraling toward the center, called yin, brings energy in and represents a positive charge. The outward spiraling away from the center, called yang, sends energy out and represents a negative charge. To symbolize the yin movement, I use a white, meaning positive triangle, pointed down over here. The yang, I use the black, pointed up. At the end of the inner outward spiraling movement, the energy reverses into an outward inward spiraling motion towards the outward center of the apple, which we could refer to as the apple's equator. While passing this equator, the energy changes into an outward spiraling motion. So it goes in and up and out and around and back in again, like a figure eight. Think of a figure eight on its end, like end over end. So it spirals up and goes around and spirals back down and through and then back up again. It's a giant figure eight, but it's a toroidal shape. And this cone, nose to cone, is the actual shape of the DNA helix when it's twisted. This is how the DNA touches each other or connects up. Dan Winter, the physicist, has got a great course called Jedi Physics that explains this in depth. And he says that once you learn how to do this, you can steer the plasma tornado, that you can carry memory through death, which I believe your memory is going through death anyway. I digress. Finally, at the end of the outward spiral, the movement changes back into an inward spiral. The forbidden apple of knowledge shows 4 different phases of spiraling energy, starting at the apple's top. The first phase is the inward spiraling movement. This matches with the ancient science refers to as earth. The ancient science reference to air fits with the inner outward spiraling movement. Next, the outward inward spiraling phase corresponds with the concept of water in ancient science. Fourthly, the concept of fire in ancient science refers to the outward spiraling phase. The symbols used by ancient science as known in the figure to the right perfectly match the direction of the shape as the figure below shows. The horizontal inner lines in the ancient symbols for earth and air indicate that these two symbols represent the inner phases. So right here's the diagram. You have the energy going up and around, that's fire, earth, down, air, back up, water. It's a cycle through this forbidden apple here, is if you want to look at it like that. Um, the spiraling movement of energy has no beginning and no ending. Energy spirals infinitely. The figure below shows the four phases of infinitely spiraling energy plotted on the shape of the symbol for infinity. Okay, see, this is how it goes down and around and back up and down, back up, at constant figure eight motion, but turn it on its head. Or you don't have to turn it on its head. It can go just like this, but just think of it like that. So you've got air, fire, earth, water in a constant spiral, out, in, yang, yin. Okay? Modern science postulates four different forces of nature. As described in the previous chapter, ancient science distinguishes between four types of energy. The hypothesis of holy science is that both are the same. Holy science combines modern knowledge with ancient wisdom. By doing so, the outline for the grand unified theory of everything, outline also referred to as the grand unified theory, gut, or simply theory of everything, toe, becomes easily clear. For more than a century, modern science unsuccessfully tried to construct such an overall theory. I hope that modern science are able to upgrade their thinking to the level of holy science. The inner energy movement of going inwards, Earth, clearly matches the effect of gravity. Next, electromagnetic radiation matches with the inner energy movement of going outwards, air. Thirdly, the strong nuclear force is oriented toward the center, just as the energetic spiral movement of water is. Fourthly, the final and weak nuclear force is oriented away from the center, just as the energetic spiral movement of fire, causing the phenomenon of decay, meaning disintegration. Wow. See? Some modern scientists believe that the electromagnetic force and the weak nuclear force are both aspects of a single force they called the electroweak force. In fact, both forces refer to shadow effects caused by outward spiraling energies called yang in ancient science. Right here we have modern science, ancient science, holy science. Gravitational force, earth, inward, inward. Electromagnetic force, air, inward, outward. Strong nuclear force, water, outward, inward, and weak nuclear force, fire, outer, outward. This means that the four forces of modern science are not really forces. They are descriptions of shadow effects of the outer world. Now, world number three, in the same way, the four types of energy described by modern science phenomena are of the shadow world and not of the flow world. Number two, kinetic energy, chemical energy, magnetic energy, and electric energy are shadows of the four phases of spiraling energy, as summarized in the table below. All these energies describe, in fact, phenomena related to matter. Kinetic energy refers to the ability of matter to move. Chemical energy emerges from the structural arrangement of atoms or molecules. This means that nuclear energy is a kind of chemical energy. Next, magnetic energy describes the attraction and repulsion between particles. Fourthly, electric energy describes the transfer of charges between matter. Okay, so kinetic energy, earth, motion of matter. Chemical energy, air, structure of matter. Magnetic energy, water, interaction between matter. Electric energy, fire, transfer between matter. Ancient science reveals that all phenomena in the shadow world result from the continuous interaction between yin and yang. This dual nature shows itself clearly in both poles of electric current. For chemical energy, it creates the difference between implosion and explosion. In the case of nuclear energy or atomic energy, this duality creates the difference between fusion and fission. Fourthly, the difference between gravitation and levitation is the expression of yin and yang with kinetic energy. Kinetic energy, gravitation is yin, levitation is yang. Chemical implosion yin, explosion yang. Magnetic south pole yin, north pole yang. Electric positive pole yin, negative pole yang. So this is the creation. See, this is the frequency in creation. This is it. The forbidden apple of knowledge shows the correct sequence of earth, air, water, fire. The same sequence is also present in the zodiac, in the Mayan calendar called the Tzolk'in. As the next chapter on dynamics of time will show, the forbidden apple of knowledge also shows that fire and air are both yang energies, water and earth are both yin energies. This brings again to the Bible, since the prayer that starts with the words, Our Father who art in heaven, is actually a homage to the yang energies. Our Father refers to Father Helios, the central sun in our solar system. Father Helios, full of plasma, represents the yang energy of fire. Similarly, heaven refers to the yang energy of air. This means that fire and air are the two yang energies honored by the prayer of Our Father who art in heaven. Reference Father Heaven, Mother Earth, energy, fire, air, water, earth. And this is the sign. See, if you know the I Ching, this is the sign yang, a solid line, and the broken line is yin, water, earth, fire, air, mother. So this is the thing right here. The Essence Gospel of Peace contains a prayer that starts with the words, Our Mother who art in earth. As the gospel is not part of the Bible, few people know of this prayer. Our Mother in this prayer refers to our mother called Terra. To address her, we also use the name Gaia, which literally means Mother Terra. As said before, our Mother Terra consists mostly of water. Without water, no life is possible on Terra. Therefore, our Mother refers to water. Next, Earth simply refers to Earth. This means that water and Earth are the two yin energies honored by the prayer of our Mother who art in Earth. The 64 hexagrams, meaning 6 lines of the I Ching, the ancient book of changes, yang is represented by a single long line, similar to the sign for negative, and yin by the 2 short lines, just as the sign for positive constitutes of 2 lines. The well-known symbol of Tao, or Teo, however you want to say it, the god of Psi, or Si, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si, also captures the 4 phases of spiraling energy. The white yin and the black yang are perfectly in balance in this ancient symbol of Tao. The black upper part is the symbol as shown to the left represents fire, while the white lower part represents water. These are both the larger outer movements of spiraling energy. Both small circles represent the smaller inner movement of air. The small black circle, the earth. The small white circle, the symbol of Tao, shows that the big black drop, fire, disappears in the small white hole, earth. Next out of the small black hole, air, the big white drop, water, appears. That gradually turns over into the big black drop, fire. The symbol of the Tao, therefore, shows the spiraling dynamic of the forbidden apple of knowledge. Finally, we find another example of the shadows created by the 4 phases of spiraling energy and the 4 states of matter, each corresponding to a different heaven. as shown in the table below. Heaven, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tone, sol, fa, mi, re. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Helios, Zeus, Terra, Luna. Plasma, gas, liquid, solid. Fire, air, water, earth. See how everything corresponds there. This is the harmonics of creation right here. The projected dynamics of time. Okay, this is going into a little bit deeper stuff here. We'll just continue on. The projected shadow world, world number 3, has 3 meta dimensions: space, time, and identity, which is again a trinity. Each of these meta dimensions in itself is also a trinity and has therefore 3 dimensions, as the table below shows: width, depth, height, day, year, eon, body, soul, spirit. Then the type, we've got the sine wave, and then the only thing that I have trouble with this part of this whole theory hypothesis is I wish it would have. I don't know why it doesn't do month, like it says day. I would have put it day, month, year instead of day, year, eon. So because the eon is talking about the great year, I assume, the precession of the equinoxes. Okay, well, that would be number 4. So we've got 3 here. I would have said day, month, year, eon. But they're trying to do the Trinity in this, so they left out the month part and just went on to the eon. But anyways, this is how it says it. All 3 metadimensions are essential. The interaction between these 3 metadimensions creates the experience of reality in the shadow world. Experiencing reality in the shadow world requires a conscious identity, a moment in time, and a place in space. Without an identity, space, or time, there is nothing. Therefore, we can define each of these 3 metadimensions as a function of both others: space, time, identity, function, 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 time, identity, space, time. Everything in the shadow world is a projection from the dynamics in the flow world, world number 2. In order to understand the nature of space, time, and identity, we need to understand from where these shadowy phenomena originate. Let us take a closer look at the 3 metadimensions of our reality. Everything in our holographic shadow world is subjective by nature, since the observing identity is a defining metadimension of that very same reality. Many people believe that our shadowy world will change from 3D via 4D to 5D. That's what we believe is going on now, the shift in consciousness, where D stands for dimension. While some actually do think this means the birth of additional orthogonal directions, I see these dimensions as frequency domains in which all projections have a similar degree of density. Below, we will discuss this in more detail. To me, the D therefore stands for vibrational density. We know that everything is a vibration, which means an oscillation frequency. To measure this vibration, we need space-time identity. In order to have a point of reference in our subjective reality, modern science uses the speed of light. This speed is, of course, space divided by time, and light is the identity. Each identity is a trinity. Each atom is a trinity of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Each of these subatomic particles is a trinity of 3 quark orientations: up or down, strange or charm, and top or bottom. In the same way, each human is a trinity of body, soul, and spirit. The body corresponds with the level of our common consciousness. Underneath this common level, we find the level of our subconsciousness, corresponding to our soul. Above the awareness level of our common consciousness, we find the level of our superconsciousness, also known as our spirit. Just like space and identity, time also has three defining dimensions. Time is not linear like space, but cyclical. In fact, time consists of three cycles: a daily cycle, a yearly cycle, and a very large cycle lasting 12 eons, as the remaining of this paragraph will explain. See, I wish right there it would have went to month. But I understand why it's saying the eon, but month is a definite cycle period, because we have the day, we have a week, we have a month, we have a year, and we have an eon. Okay, if you're going to skip to day, you're going to skip week and skip month and go to year and then eon. You're leaving out two very important dynamics there. But the four phases of spiraling energy are clearly present in our experience of daily time. Night is the period from midnight until sunrise. This period matches the energetic phase of Earth. The morning period from sunrise until noon or midday matches the energetic phase of air. The period directly after noon is called afternoon and lasts until sunset. The period matches the energetic phase of water. Fourthly, the evening period from sunset until sunrise matches the energetic phase of fire. Okay, right here. Evening, night, morning, afternoon, sunset, sunrise. Here's the spiraling energy, the toroidal. Our clock divides the period of midnight until midday into 12 hours. The first hour starts at midnight and the 12th ends at midday. Meridian. This is Latin for mid, meri, day, diem. These are the 12 hours before or ante in Latin, meridian, abbreviated as AM. The abbreviation of PM means post, meaning after meridian. AM, PM. AM is where did I see that? Where did I say that at? DM. These are 12 hours. Ante, ante meridian, and post meridian. Okay, it's AM, PM. The period from midday until midnight also lasts 12 hours. In full daily cycle, the analog clock goes around twice. The first round represents the inner spiraling phases of earth and air. Next, the second round corresponds to the outward spiraling phases of water and fire. See, here's 12 to 12 and 12 to 12, and it matches up. So you have AM and PM, 9, 6, 3, 12, 9, 6, 3, 12, like that. Okay. Time is a function of space and identity, as stated in the beginning of this paragraph. In order to determine the time of day, we need to know both the identity and that experiences this time and the location in space of this identity. The relative position of this identity on the rotating crust of Mother Terra, related to the direction towards Father Helios, determines the time of day for this identity on that location. The rotation of Mother Terra around her vertical axis causes the experience of the four phases of a natural day. In fact, the sunlight rhythm rules the experience of time on a daily basis. Sunlight also rules the yearly experience of time. Let us refer to the daily period from sunrise until sunset as lightness, and daily period from sunset until sunrise as darkness. At the day of the winter solstice, there is maximum darkness and minimum lightness. The opposite is true for the day of the summer solstice, with a maximum amount of lightness and a minimum amount of darkness. Exactly in the middle between both solstices, we find the equinoxes. Both at the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, the length of the lightness period and the length of the darkness period are precisely equal. Summer, winter, autumn, spring. See, this is matches up. Right here we have the diagram for the day, or the seasons, and then the day. In period of one full orbit of rotating Mother Terra around also rotating Father Helios, we experience 4 seasons due to this eternal battle between lightness and darkness. These 4 seasons, each lasting 13 weeks, fully match with the 4 phases of spiraling energy as shown in the table below. As Mother Terra orbits around Father Helios, the background of stars behind Helios, as seen from Terra's surface, changes each day. Nearly 1 degree of arc, the 12 constellations of the zodiac, result from the dividing the full circle of this background star view into segments of 30 degrees each. Okay? That's how we get the constellations. Remember that. Experienced from the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice marks the beginning of the period of Cancer. That's me, Cancer. This is the day of the maximum lightness on the northern hemisphere and maximum darkness on the southern hemisphere. At noonday, the light of Father Helios shines perpendicular to the Tropic of Cancer, seen from the northern circle parallel of the equator. Helios is then exactly in the zenith position. In the figure below, Helios is at the moment in time at the left-hand side of Terra. At the opposite day of the annual orbit of Terra around Helios, the winter solstice marks the beginning of the period of Capricorn. This is the day of maximum lightness on the southern hemisphere and maximum darkness on the northern hemisphere. At noon on that day, the light from Father Helios shines perpendicular on the Tropic of Capricorn. Seen from the southern circle parallel to the equator, Helios is then exactly in the zenith position. In the figure below, Helios is at the moment in time at the right-hand side of Terra. See, Cancer is on the left, Capricorn is on the right, across the equator. So we have, as the axis rotation, and we have the precession of the equinoxes, because the Earth rotates on an axis, but it wobbles. So the ecliptic is the two-dimensional plane of Terra's orbit around Helios. Terra's axis of rotation makes an arc of nearly 23.5 degrees, with an ecliptic 23 degrees and 27 minutes to be precise. The official name for the axial tilt is the obliquity of the ecliptic. Because of this tilted axis, the experience of the daily alteration of darkness and lightness differs for all locations, except those with latitude beyond the polar circle. On those locations, Helios does not rise in the winter and does not set in the summer. 12 constellations also preserve the right sequence of the 4 energetic phases as shown in the table. So we have fire, earth, air, water, and it's broken down here. Um, Water, of course, this is me, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Uh, the Capricorn is my wife, and she's definitely grounded. She's a earth person, and I'm a water person. So, we get along, earth and water. Every day again, the ball of fire called Helios describes a semicircle in the sky as seen from Terra's surface. Every morning, Helios rises in the east and every evening sets in the west. We do not perceive the other half of the full circle movement of Helios because the other semicircle is below our horizon. At the day of both the vernal equinox and autumnal equinox, the visible a semicircle of Helios lasts exactly half a natural day, which is 12 hours. I refer to this neutral semicircle as the zero semicircle. Every day after the autumnal equinox, autumnal, autumnal, autumnal equinox, the semicircle very gradually keeps on shrinking. Therefore, both positions of sunrise and sunset crawl a little more to the south, as seen from the northern hemisphere where most of humanity lives. At the same time, Helios climbs a little less as high in the sky as the previous day. This shrinking semicircle causes darkness to increase and lightness to decrease, is continuing until the winter solstice. From that day, the darkness is no longer gaining in strength. During a trinity of 3 natural hours, the sun Helios describes exactly the same smallest semicircle in the sky. In order to describe the yearly event, we could say that the light bringer, or the Messiah, meaning the sun Helios, is dead for 3 days. In Latin, this is the solstice, where sol means sun, as said before, and stis means standstill. As we saw earlier, Hunabku, being the beating heart of the Milky Way, is the God on the level of creation, right above the level of Helios. So we can say that the God Hunabku is the father of Helios. That means that the Messiah, meaning the son Helios, is the Son of God. The Son is the Son of God. And at the same time is Helios, our Father who art in heaven. So both Messiah and Christ mean the anointed one, which refers to the local ruler. Helios is the local ruler of our solar system. This means that the sun Helios is the Christ, the Messiah, and the Son of God. And his sunlight is the healing plasma energy, which we could also call the Holy Spirit. Therefore, Helios is the trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In the picture below, the smallest semicircle we see during the day of the winter solstice is marked with the minus sign, and the largest semicircle appearing on the day of summer solstice is marked with a plus sign. See, it half and half. Matches up perfectly. After being dead for 3 days on December 25th, the Messiah arises from the dead and starts to move higher in the sky every next day until the summer solstice. By drawing a straight line from 3 stars, also known as the Three Kings, in the belt of Orion, through the star Sirius, which the kings followed in the Bible. The star of Bethlehem is the star Sirius, which the 3 wise men, the 3 kings, followed. In the belt of Orion, through the star Sirius, which the kings followed. The crossing of that line with the horizon marked exactly the location of the rising Helios, or rebirth of Christ, on December 25th. The biblical version is just a personalized version of the celestial dynamics, or celestial, what do they call it? Never mind. Many people mistakenly believe Terra's orbit around Helios is a circle. Neither is it an ellipse, because Helios is not in the center of this orbit. This orbit actually has the shape of an egg. In the picture below, the direction of Helios movement with an incredible speed, about 250 kilometers per second, is to right hand side. The beginning of the new year on January 1st, Terra is about at her closest, the point to Helios. This orbital position is called the perihelion. It takes Helios only 7 natural days to cross this distance. 6 months after perihelion, Terra reached the aphelion, where her distance to Helios is the largest. The difference between both distances, para and aphelion, is 3.3%. 33. The age of Christ when he died. 33. Is that not crazy? So all of this is describing the Christ story, if you hadn't caught on yet. In total, the yearly dark period of autumn and winter is 1 week shorter than the yearly light period for spring and summer. In a leap year, the difference is 6 days. The extra day then occurs in the shortest season, which is in the winter. Our experience of time combines the daily cycle of morning, afternoon, evening, and night with the annual cycle of spring, summer, winter, and autumn. This is this In this experience of time, a full 360-degree circle of the daily cycle takes nearly the same amount of time as a 1 degree of arc progress in the annual cycle. There's a third, see Vega and Polaris, there's a third cycle of time. Plato referred to this very long cycle as the great year. A 1 degree of arc progress in this great year cycle takes 72 years. The cause for this long cycle is the tumbling movement of Terra's rotation axis. Currently, this axis points north in the direction of a bright star called Polaris, or our pole star. However, about 13 millennia ago, the alignment of Terra's axis of rotation was with another bright star called Vega in the constellation Lyra, right here. See Vega, Polaris, they're opposite of each other. And the rotation direction of the great year tumble is the reverse of the yearly cycle. That is why the great year tumble is called the precession of the equinoxes, meaning a reversed succession of the vernal and autumnal equinoxes. One great year is 25.920. 4 great seasons, 4 times 6.480, 12 eons, 12 times 2.16 or 2160. During a full circle of the great year, Terra's axis of rotation bends over to each of the 12 constellations, dividing the full circle into 4 quarters, results in the 4 great seasons of 3 eons or ages each. The great winter starts with the eon of Taurus, which is an earth sign. Next, the great spring starts with the eon of Aquarius, which is an air sign. The great summer starts with the eon of Scorpio, which is a water sign. Fourthly, the great autumn starts with the eon of Leo, which is the fire sign. The figure below shows the ordering of the 12 eons in the cycle of the great year, with an emphasis on signs of the starting eons per great season. It's amazing how all of this is just clockwork like clockwork. Tell me there's not a God or intelligent designer. You look at this and tell me it happened by happenstance. Before we saw that the essential sequence of earth, air, water, and fire is present in the yearly ordering of the 12 constellations, now we see that this same correct sequence is present in the starting eon of the great seasons. Below, we see the very same ordering in the Mayan calendar called the Tzolkin. 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 Literally meaning the counting Tzol of natural days kin. The Tzolkin assigns each natural day to one of 20 signs in a fixed sequence, as shown in the table below. Later on, we will learn much more about the Mayan calendars. Red, white, blue, yellow, earth, air, water, fire, crocodile, wind, night, seed, serpent, gate, deer, rabbit. This is the Mayans. So red and blue are our main colors right here. And you can see crocodile, night, serpent, deer, offering, monkey, reed, eagle, earthquake, and rainstorm. So right here, it's going to go start talking about the clock of Giza. So I'm going to stop this video right here, and we will pick up. This is a great lesson here, the clock of Giza, and this is going to continue through showing how the harmonics of creation come about and how everything is connected, and the numbers and how the plots are laid out on the certain areas of the earth. This is a great study, and everyone should know this stuff. It should be taught in school, which it's not. This should be like elementary school knowledge that every person should know, and they don't. It's going to get really interesting, so stay with me.